while we're still standing, we'd like to take the second stanza of we just recite the second stanza of the national anthem as our opening prayer. And I'll lead. O God of creation, direct our noble cause, guide our leaders right, help our youth the truth to know, in love and honesty to grow, and living just and true, great lofty heights attain, to build a nation where peace and justice shall reign. Amen. Thank you very much, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. You may have your seat if you can. Please, let's give ourselves a round of applause. I want to thank you so very much for being here. Once again, on behalf of Mando Foundation, the family of our late engineer Emmanuel, Olaniyi, Oladeji, FNSE, and the Nigerian Set of Engineers Ibadan branch, I want to sincerely welcome you to this symposium, engineering symposium, in honor of late engineer Emmanuel, Olaniyi, Oladeji, FNSE, who passed on at a ripe age of 92 years. A distinguished engineer, an astute engineer of that resort, a high-flying, highly quintessential engineer, in fact, a very great one indeed. I think it's really worth it to have this symposium in his honor, for who he stood to be in his lifetime. He was a mentor of many. He was a father to so many. In fact, he was an inspiration to several of us, his colleagues, his contemporaries, and many of us that came behind. And that's why we welcome you all to this program today. Without wasting much of our time, I would like to invite to come to give a brief address, and that will be done by no other person than the first son of our late departed father, the person of engineer Bode Oladeji, MNSC. Let's give him a round of applause as he comes up to make that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Let me quickly make a correction. I'm not the first son of Engineer Oladeji. I'm the second son of Engineer Oladeji. Unfortunately, my brother Jide is not here today because of the new regulations that the UK government put out in terms of travel situations. So unfortunately, he's not here with us. But he's definitely here with us in spirit. And as we go along, I'm sure he's going to join us online to see how things are going. So let us just take correction on that. It is indeed a pleasure for me to be present in this group and to be able to have this symposium on behalf of my father. I happen to be an engineer also, and I must say that I enjoy engineering. And for me, it's a great privilege. It is absolute that engineering remains a cornerstone of socio-economic development of any nation, and for which engineers play a vital role, while we appreciate that the whole of the part makes for a peaceful coexistence. The contribution made by engineering skills and knowledge is a sine qua non to better life. Engineers cause and contribute to the fundamental development of a nation's gross domestic product. and therefore presupposes the fact of life of the engineer in a society. Many of the greatest feats of life could not have been recorded without the aid and support of engineers. When we therefore take cognizance of the 7 wonders of the world, we note that they are impossible tasks without engineering. When we take recognition of the 7 natural wonders of the world, one takes solace in the fact that God really must have been an engineer to make such things happen. I want to believe that you will agree with me. Taking excerpts from a report by the Center of Economics and Business Research for the Royal Academy of Engineering, it says that engineering plays a key role in ensuring the growth and development of a country's economy, as well as in improving the quality of life for citizens within the country. As such, there is an important link between a country's engineering capacity and its economic development. However, the extent to which engineering can aid development is also dependent on governments committing finance and resources required for infrastructure projects, as well as developing a favorable business environment with good regulation and without corruption. And sincerely hoping that the students here with us will take cognizance of the discussions that we're going to have today, because the discussions center really about economic development and the role that engineering takes in it. We need you guys to key into what we're talking about, because you guys are the future. Do we then say that the lack of monumental economic development in Nigeria is a reflection of the dearth of engineering capacity? That speaks directly to you guys, young guys. I wouldn't say that we have taken our boarding passes. We have not. We are just playing around in the system. We are here to take boarding passes. Nobody's going to wish us away very quickly. We are not going anywhere. And the truth of it is that we're here to be able to impart knowledge on you guys coming behind, especially you guys coming out of the universities, are in engineering school in the universities, and you're planning to take a career in engineering. It is therefore within the stated narrative that we recognize today one of us, Engineer Chief Emmanuel, Olaniyi Oladeji, for some of the works that he undertook during his lifetime for the betterment of mankind, as he blazed the trail of engineering feats in Nigeria. We will talk about some of the works they did. The speakers would give narratives of our expectations. I mean, the truth of it is that those of us coming behind, we have a tendency to think that the older people had it easy. I beg to differ. You guys will start learning that it's never easy at any point. When the senior engineers that you have here tell you their stories, you will roll on the floor crying because you won't be able to laugh. So therefore, I would say to you quickly that the engineers that came long before, they had challenges. They had major challenges. They were probably first and second generation engineers that were coming into the system. And at that particular point in time, the white boys did not want to leave the engineering field to them. And that's why the white boys have never left Nigeria, because they also always want to hold on to what it seems that is projects in Nigeria. Engineer Oladeji took up the challenge of concentrating in sanitary and water engineering. He made phenomenal strides as he took the courage of leading teams of his colleagues and contemporaries to turn opportunities to achievements, and for which the project's success could not have been possible without notable engineers and scientists. So today, we celebrate all the engineers and scientists who created opportunities by building dams, bridges, highways, powerhouses, industries, high-rises, and the likes, for they are to us the heroes of our past. When we juxtapose the achievements thus far to the present needs of the nation, we just must appreciate that we're a far cry from Uhuru. The situation presupposes that collectively we need to reassess ourselves. As we look to create opportunities in engineering that will support the building of our nation, we really need to think deeply about what we're going to do. The challenge is in our hands, and we just got to carry the gauntlet and run with it. Nobody's going to develop Nigeria for us. We all need to get that in our heads. Nobody's going to do that. If anybody is coming here to work with us, it's just come to take our money and go back to their country. So we've got to get that right. It is within this purview that I present to you the panel of distinguished fellows under the eminent chairmanship of Engineer Chief Olaniyi Oladeji to speak to and the distinguished chairman and the speakers will speak to the 4 fundamental disciplines of engineering: civil, mechanical, industrial, and power. Thank you all very much.
Please, let's give him another round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you so very much. I know that every one of us has got a lot to learn from the array of erudite engineers that are here today to speak to us. Please, I will advise that you open up your mind, because each and every one of them, I have known them for years. They've been trainers of trainers, and then we have drunk a lot, and we are still drinking from their wealth of experience. You also will do today. Let's give him another round of applause. Distinguished engineers, ladies and gentlemen, well, I will adjust the program a little bit. I'd like to bring to the high table the eminent persons. The first person I'm going to call up to the high table. You are privileged, our younger engineers and other engineers here. We are privileged to have him in our midst. He is a past president of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. Can we give a round of applause for that? I'm sure as many of you come into NSC, you see how easy it is. Very, very easy to become the president of Nigerian Society of Engineers. It's so easy, so very easy. And he's the chairman and founder of Intercom Partnership Limited. He is a past chairman of the Nigerian Society of Engineers Ibadan branch. And today, he is the chairman. He is also the Agbaki of the source. He's the High Chief of Ile-Ife. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please, with a round of applause, let's bring to the high table to take his seat Engineer Olaniyi Oladeji, fellow Nigerian Society of Engineers, fellow Academy of Engineering. He's sitting at the middle. You are welcome, sir. He's taking his seat at the middle. Thank you very much, sir. Let's give him another round of applause as he goes. Thank you very much, sir. It's so easy to get people like him. I hope you know. It's so easy. We really appreciate you, sir, for making out time to be here. Thank you so very much. God bless you, sir. The next person I will bring to I know one of our speakers is unavoidably absent. And so we have a speaker who is 2-in-1 today. And he's a professor of industrial engineering. I hope you know how easy it also is to become a professor of industrial engineering. It's so easy. Very, very simple. Even from primary school, maybe it's possible, I'm not saying. He's a professor of industrial engineering, and currently is even the national chairman, if I'm not wrong. the HOD of Industrial Engineering at the University of Ibadan. He was at the time the Dean of the Faculty of Technology, University of Ibadan. And we are glad to have him. One thing about him is, once we call him, he's ready, once he's engineering, to give his best. Please join me as we bring to the high table Engineer Professor Oladeji Oluleye, FNSE, FNSE, FNSE. You're welcome, sir. Let's give it up for him as he takes his seat. Thank you very much, sir. Glad to have you. We also have in our midst, we are privileged to have also in our midst the managing partner of Intercom Partnership. He's also an erudite engineer. These are well-seasoned engineers by all means. And currently also is the chief examiner for the Nigerian Institute of Engineers Ibadan branch. Please, with a round of applause, join me as I bring to the high table Engineer Wale Laguju, fellow Nigerian Institute of Engineers, fellow Nigerian Institution of Structural Engineers. He's a chartered engineer. Let's give it up for him as he takes his seat. If you want to do exam today in Ibadan, you will also always pass through him, as far as today is concerned. The professional corporate exams of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. Engineer Lagunju, you're welcome, sir. Glad to have you. Well, last but not the least of our speakers, he retired as the Chief Technical Officer of the Ibadan Electricity Distribution Company. He has been there in the days of NEPA. I'm sure many of you will know NEPA. At least when light went out the other time, I'm sure inside your mind you shouted, NEPA, up NEPA. And now NEPA is back. The people behind NEPA, the real brains behind NEPA, when NEPA was NEPA, and even up till the time he retired from Ibadan Electricity Distribution Company as Chief Technical Officer. Please, he's an erudite power person, power engineer. Everything about power is so clear to him. So we're glad to have him. With a round of applause, let's bring to the high table Engineer Ade Ayileka, fellow Nigerian Society of Engineers. Thank you very much. Please, let's give him a round of applause as he goes. Distinguished engineers, ladies and gentlemen, I would also like to bring to the high table a friend and contemporary of late engineer Emmanuel Olaniyi Oladeji. He is also, one of the highly respected engineers in the country today, in fact, nationwide. If you have ever heard about Consortium Engineering Consultants Limited, I don't know. Is a seasoned erudite engineer, and we are glad to have him. Even at his age, he's able to come here. We are talking about someone in is almost 90 years old. 93. Sorry, I'm so sorry. He's 93 years old and an engineer. He's a contemporary of our late father. Please join me as I bring to the high table Engineer Omotunde Adeyemi, fellow Nigerian Society of Engineers. Please give it. I have expected you to even rise to honor him. For an engineer of his sort at 93 years, you can imagine how many engineers he would have trained. how much experience he has. We are glad to have you, sir. Thank you so very much. You may be seated. Well, I know that the members of the family are also here well represented. I won't introduce them yet, but because I'm going to bring them up. When the citation of Baba will be read, they will be here standing, and it's in honor to stand in his place and then to represent him. And then we have in our midst a fellow of the Nigerian Set of Engineers here present. He's a director in the Ministry of Works and Transport. Please join me with a round of applause as I recognize Engineer Victor Ogranti, fellow Nigerian Set of Engineers. You're welcome. We also have in our midst the Vice Chairman of the Nigerian Set of Engineers, Engineer Ibrahim Folani Bello, fellow Nigerian Set of Engineers. You're welcome. Please come to the front. Then we also have in our midst the son of our chairman today. I told you the chairman is an engineer. He also has a son who is also an engineer. Please join me as I ask to come to the front. Engineer Jimmy Ajibola. Please come to the front. Thank you very much. I'll be doing other introduction as we go on. Without wasting time, I would like for the members of the family to please come to the front. Members of the family here present. Oladeji, you are there. You cannot see that, sir. Normally, when citation is to be read, you ask the citee or the owner of the citation to come to be upstanding. I'm sorry, please give it to me today, since I have the power of the mic, to ask you to stand up while the citation of Baba will be read. Thank you very much. Distinguished engineers, ladies and gentlemen, the citation of late engineer Emmanuel Olaniyi Oladeji. Born to the family of Oladeji Babayemi of Oloshaoko, Opoyeosa, Abebi, Ibadan, on the 25th of January, 1929. I hope you can show this thing. Emmanuel Olaniyi Oladeji had a modest and compelling upbringing in the Abebi enclave of Ibadan. Growing up within a settlement marked by the presence of the Christian Missionary Society and Roman Catholic church planters, it is not coincidental that he attended St. Patrick's Catholic Primary School, Abebi, in 1935. The trajectory of Olaniyi's life presented him of faith accomplished, as his dad, Oladeji, was fairly literate and with a penchant for discovery. Olaniyi's humble beginning took better of him as he enjoyed going to school and quickly found solace in learning and participation in sports. He therefore excelled as his teachers recognized his attributes, and some of whom cared to support his ambition to continue his learning escapade. With support from some of his teachers, he prepared for the common entrance examination, for which merited him a place at the famous Government College, Ibadan, in 1994, the testimony of hard work and diligence. 1944. Emmanuel Olaniyi Oladeji was admitted to Government College Ibadan GCI on the Native Administration's NA scholarship in 1944, and his college number was 412. The opportunity presented him at GCI set the tone and pace for his accomplishment in life. Olaniyi was bright, studious, and excelled in sports. Olaniyi was fond of paying special attention to details, and all the noted attributes attracted to him deep life-changing responsibilities and friendship. Some of the notable friends he cultivated at the government college include Engineer Ben Faluyi, Professor Caleb Olaniyi, Chief Joshua Olariwaju, and Dr. Dokun Ajayobe, to name but a few. And all these men rose to the pinnacle of their chosen careers. At GCI, he was a celebrated student. In 1945, he attained the high jump record of 5 feet and was described as a student endowed with a natural spring. I hope you will give that a round of applause. 5 feet is 1.5 meters. It's not easy to jump for a secondary school student. Thank you. In 1946, he won the cricket colours, and in 1948, he was surprisingly, he said, nominated as the head of school prefect. A year in which he sat for the Cambridge School Leaving Certificate and attained a grade 1. Let's give that a round of applause. Maybe many of us don't know what grade 1 means. Grade 1 is distinction in at least 6 subjects. Distinction in at least 6, that means you must have had A1s in at least 6 subjects. Let's give him a round of applause again. On resumption in 1949, Olaniyi was chosen as the head of Car House, a new house which had just been created. Like every soul, Olaniyi had his trials and tribulations. He sat for the entrance examination into University College Ibadan in 1949, but failed due to a leakage of the examination. But he continued life with a passion to succeed. During the same period, he sat for the entrance examination to the Public Works Department, PWD, Technical School, Lagos, as engineering assistant and was successful. So began his sojourn into the world of engineering as he entered into the civil service on the 6th July 1949. Although he had a primary resolve to study medicine, but unknown to him, his professional career in engineering started with his indoctrination into the civil service. The young scholar Olaniyi from Oloshaoko, Opoyiosa, Abebi, commenced in August 1949 the PWD sandwich training course, which lasted for 9 months, at the completion of which he was officially accepted into the civil service and was posted to the Sokoto Ministry of Works and Transport. His career with the PWD led him to several stations in northern and southern protectorates of Nigeria. During the period, and living in the heart of northern Nigeria, he picked up the Hausa language and learned a little Igbo as he lived with a predominantly Igbo community in the northern Nigeria. His experience at PWD led him to several locations where he enjoyed the engineering practice while engaging in athletics with his peers and associates, he said. He later took the second and third courses of PWD, and during the same period took the entrance examination to the University College Ibadan, which he passed and was provided a place for enrollment. Although a place was earmarked for him as a result of his good grades in the scholarship board exam, God in his divine mercy directed otherwise. In June 1953, after his successful engagement in the PWD, and after being posted to the Jogor, the Ministry of Works and Transport, where he was placed in the Water Division, he secured a place with his earlier admission to the University College Ibadan as a government scholar. His admission presented him the grace to study the Bachelors of Science in Engineering, starting from the intermediate level of the University of London curriculum. The excellent teaching pedigree paraded by University College Ibadan absolutely contributed positively to his completion of the intermediate Bachelor's of Science at University College Ibadan and his admission to complete the Bachelor's of Science in Engineering at Queen Mary College, Mile End Road, London. An admission which was made possible by the Western State Government Scholarship. Although he proposed to study engineering at Oxford or Cambridge University, divine providence led him to the London University College, where engineering was said to be at its best. Olaniyi attended Queen Mary College from 1955 through 1959. As God also always prepared one for the future, the third course of the PWD gave Olaniyi a preview to the academic curricula at Queen Mary College, so learning was relatively easy. In exception of an engineering drawing course, which delayed him for a year, and thanks to God that his scholarship was not withdrawn, he finished his studies in July 1959. Olaniyi's studies at Queen Mary College was marked with interesting accomplishment as he took part in social activities and engaged in sports, and for which he represented London University in athletics, a situation which led to his winning London University colours purple, and was adorned a certificate at the annual competition between London and French universities. In support of his prowess in athletics, he was sponsored by the Nigerian government for Student Olympics in 1956. Upon graduation at Queen Mary College, he took an appointment as an assistant engineer with the renowned engineering firm of Messrs. Oscar Faber and Partners, where he spent the first 2 years as an engineer, from where he passed on first attempt the Institution of Structural Engineers exam in October 1961. That same exam today, whether in London or in Nigeria, is a 7-hour exam. You answer just one question out of 4 for 7 hours. Open book. You can bring in anything you like, but I can tell you that 7 hours will disappear like 7 minutes by the time you get busy with the exam. He later went to work for British Railways in Euston, from where he resigned, and on 1st February 1962, departed Liverpool on an AV Oriya for Nigeria. His experience in the UK was marked with complete grace of God and mercy, as he got married to his heartthrob, Mojisola Catherine Oladeji, who passed on to eternal glory on February 3, 2021, after a blissful relationship of 72 years. His return to Nigeria was marked by his placement at the Ministry of Works and Transport with engineer Alan Whitten, who was the water engineer in charge of the design office. Olaniyi was assigned to work in the water division as an executive engineer under Engineer Chief J.A. Andu of blessed memory. Olaniyi had a fulfilling engineering development career in the civil service. He was involved in notable landmark engineering projects for which he received commendations. One of Olaniyi's first assignments in the civil service of Western region was the design and construction of a 100,000 gallons elevated water tank for the Ilaro water supply scheme, which was later replicated for the Inye Ekiti water supply scheme. Olaniyi later went on to undertake the construction of the treatment plant, water plant for Ogbomoso water supply scheme, which was completed with its earth dam and spillway placed on Oba Dam. The project, which included a treatment and pump house, was commissioned by late Chief S.L. Akintola, the then Premier of Western Region, in 1963. The project for which his contribution was visibly acknowledged. Olaniyi also saw to the construction of several water supply schemes in western region of Nigeria. He was water engineer at Ijebu, the Ministry of Works, from August 1963 to January 1964, where, to the glory of God, he took up the challenge of completing the Epe and water supply schemes. Olaniyi was subsequently posted to be the resident engineer for the construction of Shaki water supply scheme. A very comprehensive project to delight, he said. He saw to the construction of the concrete dam with Morning Glory spillway, laying of pipes in the township, construction of water tanks at various locations, construction of treatment works, and supervision of installation of pumps and generators from February 1964 to August 1966. The project, he said, provided him with a fundamental knowledge of construction, supervision, and project management. And as God's mercy will shine on him again, it was from the Shaki project that he was selected to attend a year course at Delft University, Technological University, Delft, in Holland. Olaniyi thus undertook studies in sanitary engineering from 1966 to 1967. Soon after his return from Delft, the Water Corporation of Western State was divided into 4 major areas: Ibadan, Abeokuta, Akure, and Osogbo. Olaniyi was then posted as the premier area engineer for the newly inaugurated Water Corporation in Osogbo area of Western region. During his tenure at the Water Corporation, Osogbo, he initiated and engaged in the construction of the Kirun Water Supply Scheme, which included the Ekoinde Dam, which was commissioned with a period of 9 months. Other water supply schemes undertaken under Olaniyi's watch at Osogbo included the Ede, Iwo, Odo-Otin, Ila, and Ilesha water schemes. The period witnessed the impact of the Water Corporation and its operation in Osogbo area. Olaniyi's engagement at Osogbo provided the opportunity to undertake the Ekoinde Dam with spillway, and the mercy of God again shone on him as he successfully completed another dam project in his engineering development career. He subsequently was posted to the Water Corporation Akure from February 1970 to March 1972. Olaniyi's tenure as the new area water engineer witnessed the improvements to existing water schemes at Ado-Ekiti, Ikere, Owo, Akure, Ondo, and Okeibo, while new water supply schemes were initiated at Ikole and Igbaraoke. At the Ikole water supply scheme, Olaniyi supervised the completion of the dam, which he again saw to the spilling. Olaniyi provided many borehole schemes to complement the water supply at Ilaje Township, while the Okitipupa water supply scheme was undertaken under his watch at the Akure office. From the Akure office, Olaniyi was posted to Water Corporation of Western State Headquarters at Ibadan, where he supervised to completion the construction of the Ibadan Ashejire Water Scheme as Deputy Chief Engineer, Operations and Design. Can we give him a round of applause? That scheme supplies most of the major portion of the water that is being used in Ibadan up till tomorrow. Having spent 27 years of meritorious engagement in the civil service, Olaniyi opted for retirement from the Water Corporation of the Western State in December 1976. Then at 47, Olaniyi had garnered tremendous experience in engineering development. With an interest to continue his engineering interest within the private sector engagement, he joined the engineering firms of Messrs. Associated Engineers and Consultants, an invitation from his lifelong friend, Engineer Chief late Engineer Chief Ben Faluyi, in January 1977. The firm, which had its office at 5 Awushika Street, Bodija, was under the chairmanship of Engineer Chief Ben Faluyi, who was a year his senior at Government College Ibadan, and whom he had the privilege to work with at the Water Corporation, where he was at the time Chief Engineer, Design, while Olaniyi was Chief Engineer, Operations. At Associated Engineers, Olaniyi worked with the team of Engineer Ben Faluyi and Engineer Oladeji Aziz.
And different in the private firm was, of course, the requirement to work hard and get results. A common denominator for him and an attendant of which they earned more money. Olaniyi and the AEC team undertook many interesting civil engineering projects nationwide. He subsequently traveled through Europe and the Middle East, forming alliances with other engineering establishments to pursue projects in Nigeria, Africa, and Asia. One of such engagements formed the association with Taha Consultants, Israel, with whom AEC undertook several projects. And at a time, both Olaniyi and Benfaluyi were invited to be directors at Taha Consulting. Olaniyi's ability and success in engineering did not go unnoticed by the establishment, in which respect Olaniyi was appointed as chairman at Jordan Newtown Development Authority, where he served from 1978 to 1979. AEC and its directors undertook several notable engineering design projects across Nigeria, among which were the engineering design and construction supervision of the irrigation scheme, with Sebore Dam in Mayobelwa, the engineering design and construction supervision of facilities at the Federal Polytechnic, Akure and Ado-Ekiti, the design of Lafia Karim Lamido Road in Taraba State, design and supervision of Ogbomoso Ikirun Road in Oyo State, structural design and construction supervision of Kakanfo in Ibadan, to name a few. In the engineering circle, it was acknowledged that AEC was the first-rated engineering company in the market, and many engineers cut their teeth working at the firm. Olaniyi's experience are evident in his achievement in the engineering field, which is notable across Nigeria. His name adorns the few facilities which have existed through time. Until his demise on September 5, 2021, he was chairman, Open-Ended Ventures Africa Limited, an economic development company. Olaniyi was a giver who was always ready to share his time, energy, and money to worthy causes. Olaniyi willingly gave his resources to the benefit of many souls and projects. He was a strong believer in the Government College Ibadan Old Boys Association project, for which he was honored by the association in 1984 for his contribution to the supervision of the construction of the library project. His lifelong desire was to cooperate with the Government College Ibadan Old Boys Association in order to make Government College Ibadan a role model, as he always appreciated how he was molded at the school, a commitment he diligently upheld till the end. Olaniyi was also a committed member of the Youth Christian Circle, YCC, of St. James's the Great, Okebola, a Christian religious association for which he devoted himself and served as the General Secretary from 1989 to 1993, a commitment for which he was passionate and totally unapologetic. Also was his contribution to the Ibadan Progressive Union, IPU, a socio-cultural society of indigenous male children of Ibadan origin. Olaniyi served IPU meritoriously as secretary from 1991 to 1995 and as president of the Cooperative Investment and Credit Society for many years. Olaniyi was made a distinguished member in 1975 and remained a member of the executive committee of the union. Olaniyi was a member of the Nigerian Society of Engineers and was registered with the Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria. He was a chartered engineer, a fellow of the Institution of Civil Engineers, a fellow of the Institution of Structural Engineers, and Nigerian Society of Engineers. A legend goes back to his maker. Emmanuel, Olaniyi, Olatunji, Ajani, Oladeji finished his sojourn on Mother Earth on Sunday, September 5, 2021, and he returned to the bosom of his Creator. He absolutely was a good soul and exemplified a character of bliss. His was absolutely a great inning. Distinguished engineers, ladies and gentlemen, I'll crave your indulgence
So please rise while we observe a minute silence in honor of our late engineer, Emmanuel Olaniyi Oladeji, and his departed wife of 72 years. May their souls rest in perfect peace. Let's give ourselves a round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you for standing by me. Sorry I took you up. I'm sure Engineer Bode will still come around to introduce you formally. Thank you very much. We are proud to have you because Baba was a proud father of so many of us. You are not the only children. I hope you know, because many of us are also children. I, for one, was privileged to have the only IT I did in my life with Associated Engineers Consultants. That was the only IT I ever did. And he used to take us along all around then. He was so friendly. Oh, words cannot even describe him. He was a mentor. He was a father. He was an erudite engineer. There was no question you could ask him that he had no answer to. Intellectual answer. And he would break everything down. He demystified engineering. He could do calculations. That's why, see, when you meet all of these older engineers, the way they understood engineering is a little bit different from the way we do in this generation. This generation is so computer field. It's not bad. But it can also take away from you the rote learning. In their days, there was no computer. They could design 1 million stories by sitting down in one place with their head and their hands. The entire code was here. All the design formulae were here. They wouldn't just look at the code, but everything in the code they would use. That was how brilliant, how intelligent they were. And thank God, of course, they are here today, and we are celebrating Engineer Oladeji. Let's give ourselves another round of applause. Thank you very much. I would like now to hand over the microphone to the chairman of today to give his opening remark. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you very much, Engineer Dr. Kunle Oladeji, the chairman of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, Ibadan branch. I defer to my father here, Engineer Motunde Adeyemi, also to all the distinguished engineers on the high table here, Professor Lule, Engineer Lagunju, Engineer Ayileka, and the entire members of the family of our late father. And it always not very easy for me to say professional colleague, you know. Baba was, yes, a professional engineer, but not our colleague as such. He was way beyond us, way ahead of us. And having seen the track of the life and times of our father, I was very happy when I was asked to come and chair this occasion, because Baba took me as one of his sons the moment we met. He just kind of struck it together. I don't know. I think what happened was that he had been watching me, and then I was very active in the Nigerian Center of Engineers Ibadan branch. And he thought that I was on the right track. I'm sure he thought that. So when my brother Bode came back, Baba promptly called me and said, "I'd like to come and see you in your office." I said, "No, sir, let me come and see you. Because it's not, it should be the other way around." But Baba said, no, he'd come. He came and brought Bode. Said, "Your brother just came back from England, and he wanted him to be on the right track. And so I should be the one to lead him to the right track." Well, one thing led to the other. Since then, Bode had been my brother. And I hope I've been able to lead him towards the right track, as Baba wished. So that is the man we are talking about. Today, when I saw the topic, I was very excited, because this had been my thinking all along. I studied in the UK, next door to the Queen College. Our college was West Ham College, also University of London. And we were close together. We were in Stratford, QMC was in Maryland. And we mixed together all the time. We saw each other. But of course, Papa had left before I came, long before I came. Anyway, the issue that brought me back to Nigeria was contributing to the economy of Nigeria. Because I was also a Western Nigerian scholar, and I needed to come back to put in some service in return. Anyway, I came back, I didn't get a job, and I had to look for a job and all that. But one thing led to the other, I found myself where I am today. In 1995, when we had lost Engineer Lawrence Arokodare of very blessed memory, a very, I would say, disruptive engineer in the sense of the word disruption of today. He was always ahead of his time in thinking engineering. I worked with him before I started working on my own. And after his death, I was asked to deliver the first Lawrence Arokodare Memorial Lecture. And the topic of that lecture was engineering, engineers, and national development. That was in 1995. All the things we said at that time, that real power to politicians, to our nation, will lie in engineering, not in the rigmarole, political rigmarole that you are doing around the place. That they should give engineering the pride of place and let it really dictate the pace of movement. At that time, I canvassed diversification into industry. I canvassed application of engineering knowledge to take decisions by government, and also to create a lot of jobs for our teeming population. That was in 1995, and begged that engineering should be taken seriously. And because in England, the Iron Lady, that was Margaret Thatcher, attended one institution's program, and that was the Council for Engineering Institution of the UK. And she said that because they were the ones responsible for the buoyancy of UK economy, and they really created the UK economy, she felt attached to them. But here, it had been the opposite side. So when it came to my turn to give the October lecture of the past president of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, the topic I chose was creativity in the application of Nigerian engineering resources for effective economic development, a national policy imperative, which summarized is the topic of today. If you look at the topic of the symposium, it's engineering a panacea for economic development. You see, it's exactly the same thing. So we move to the next slide. Which one? Okay. Oh, I can hardly see. Well, you continue to look at that. I'll be looking at my book. So, the introduction had, this one is just showing the outline of my speech. The outline of my speech, I looked at economic development cycle, natural and human resources, economic systems, Nigerian economic development journey, the journey so far, the way forward, and hints on the application of engineering resources for diversification of our economy, and then conclusion. Now, I think perhaps it's possible to change the background. I think this blue background is not helping. But anyway, at independence, Nigeria was hailed as a potentially great nation because of its abundant natural and human resources. It was virtually in the same state of underdevelopment with countries like South Korea, Malaysia, Singapore, etc., etc. However, while the aforementioned countries made their turnaround already to productive economies through homegrown, creative, and innovative policies, Nigeria still remained where it was. South Korea, for example, compensated on its natural resources, on its lack of natural resources by building a knowledge-based economy. Hence, there is a need for us in Nigeria to utilize the very huge assets of resources, both human and natural, for our economic development. It behoves on us at this time to take a second look at our monoproduct economy, which is a major departure from the agricultural-based economy that we started with because of our arable land, and which today still persists. It's very clear that focusing on expendable resources, that is oil that we have been hooked onto for a long time, as the mainstay of our national economy, without developing appropriate human capital and adequate infrastructure to support the needed drive towards production and development, we will not get to the promised land of industrialization and sustainable development. My experience in our great country here in Nigeria is that there's no such shortage of policies. However, homegrown researches churned out by relevant research institutes, etc., they've been negated by the implementation, forced implementation by our government of opposing experimental foreign-initiated policies brought in by those countries whose interest in our real development is merely a lip service. In other words, we have left undone the things that we should have done. Products of our own thinking, we have subsumed in the policies that were rammed on us by World Bank and all kinds of foreign altruistic type of agencies, and we think that, oh, they are the best for us. But unfortunately, they are the ones that have been driving us below, below, and below. What do we have here? We have natural resources, which is our national endowment, mineral resources. National endowment in terms of water, in terms of climate, in terms of all kinds of gifts that are there, natural, that our God has given us just for being here. We have lots and lots, tons and tons of mineral resources. We have agric resources. Of course, we see this sprawling land that we have. Well, what about human resources? 200 million people, and so many educated ones in different disciplines. And we have these universities all over the place. We have all kinds of, indeed, our eggheads are excelling elsewhere in the world. They are even driving the economy of some of the huge countries of the world. Well, I have a flowchart which just gives something about our economy, how our economy is fed, and how that economy can be best made to work better through human resource. Well, our economy is fed by export, those things that we can export. That will be part of contributions to the GDP, and that's that. Infrastructure development, yes, that will also make sure that our economy can get better. Service industry, which we belong to, engineering, that's consulting, construction, banking, so many other industries. They also contribute to the economy, to the GDP. I can't see what's on the other side. MSMEs, okay, MSMEs, of course, micro and small scale industries. Manufacturing is one of the huge ones that will contribute to the economy. Mining, solid minerals, which are the ones that are buried under the ground. Agriculture, then oil and gas is just one of the items that contribute to the economy. But how these things by themselves cannot do anything except we have human beings to drive them. And so, to have those human beings to be able to do it, you need education. You need research and development. And that is only provided by the population, by people that we will have, our own people, not foreigners. Then we turn that population, that education and research development, we turn that population into productive human resource. And when it is turned into the productive human resource, it distributes into every aspect of those things that are inside to make our economy better. So that's how economies of countries are grown and are developed. But it seems as if we are not mindful of what we have. Well, in terms of natural resources, we are endowed. Nigeria is blessed with a huge population spread across expansive land mass, under which is buried colossal quantum of mineral treasures. There should be no cause for this pervading poverty that we have, that we became the #1 poverty center of the world. Mineral resources. What about mineral resources? Apart from oil and gas, our country is also blessed with virtually all known mineral resources spaced across the 36 states of the Federation, such as marble, gypsum, barite, and etc. Gold. Kogi State alone has deposits of 29 mineral resources, one of which is coal that can be used to generate electricity. You know, there are so many other. In fact, Kogi State is where Ajaokuta still is. That's where we have the iron ore. There are so many other things in Kogi State. Agricultural resources. It is known that our country is also endowed with about 911,000 square kilometers of land mass, 13,000 square kilometers of water bodies. 78% of the land is agricultural land, and that is 710,000 square kilometers. Mineral resources. You can see some of those minerals there. Exploitation, conversion, and application of these mineral resources alone could make them our vital engineering resources for development. Now we move on to human resources. If you look at that pie chart, you will see that the human resource of our great country is so vast that if creativity is engaged and managed, the exploitation and management of the huge natural resources will be easy and will be possible, because it can only be done by human beings. As the most populous country in Africa, the country is young and growing quickly, with 63% of the population under the age of 24. Can you imagine? That was in 2014 that I wrote this paper. Well, we have large-scale employment. Oh, sorry, we have large-scale unemployment, and therefore, if we do the right thing, we can turn it to large-scale employment, and this will reduce the antisocial behavior that we see, yahoo, and all this kidnapping and so on, would have been reduced to the barest minimum if we could have done the right thing at the right time. This figure shows the distribution of our population. Now, economic. When we talk of economy, I have already painted the picture of what economy is. All the things that contribute into what we call the national economy. Now, the systems that economies are operated by are shown here. There is traditional economy, which is the buy and sell that we do. They call it exchange by barter. In those days, in Africa, if you had yam, you exchange with somebody who had the pepper, and that's the way to trade. That's the way you trade. Well, then you have command economy, which is economy that is constrained by decrees, by regulations, and not by the free market. Then, of course, you have the free market economy, which is shown there. We have developed mixed economy. Yes, you now have the mixed economic system, which is a combination of all the above. the traditional, the command, the market, all mixed up. Now you have developed economy, which is the highly developed ones, like the world powers, the Russia, the America, China now, etc. Those big ones, Europe, UK, United Kingdom and all that. Then you have developing economies. Those that I call developing, they are like the ones Singapore, Malaysia, Southeast Asian countries, Brazil, India, etc. But underdeveloped economy, that's where we are. Don't let us deceive ourselves. That's where we are. We were on the path of development before, but somehow we raced backwards. We raced backwards into underdevelopment. I hope someday something will turn the tides around again. Nigeria's economic development, the journey so far. The Nigerian economy can be described as, I can't say, as mixed, is it? This is not, I can't say, as a mixed economy, anyway, yes, in which is the status lies between underdeveloped and developing. So we are hovering around that place. In fact, in that lecture, I drew up some orbits, and the inner orbit is underdeveloped. The middle orbit is developing. The outer orbit is developed. So Nigeria is trying to break out of underdevelopment and go into developing. It is obvious that a lot needs to be achieved to be able to change the status from underdeveloped to developing. If we must change, we need to do something first. We need to examine ourselves and what will I say? Know ourselves. Yes, we need to know ourselves. Not by what people call us, but by what we really are. Because the West, they have a way of deceiving us. They say, oil-rich country, Africa's largest economy, and things like that. When we are responding to those nicknames, those are nicknames, so Nigeria is underdeveloped. That's what we are. Sorry. So we need to move, to do some things to be able to move to the next level. Well, overview of our economy. If you look at the economy of Nigeria, at pre-independence, the Nigerian economy was just staged together to be able to serve the British economy. That was a colonial economy. We grew things that created raw materials for British industries. You know, like cocoa. We grew cocoa and they took it to make their chocolates and things like that. All our minerals were exploited, they were taken and used to produce whatever they wanted to produce. So it was not a dream to make our country great, but a dream to satisfy the colonial masters. So the next thing is that, that was the design. So the economy was therefore like that. So we were importing. Also, they prepared that economy to receive finished products like hair from them. So that if we were not manufacturing here and we were just sending all our raw materials out there, they will convert it and they will bring it at a higher price and we will continue to buy because our population was big anyway. So that was the fashion. That was what our economy was fashioned on at the time. So after that, when we got independence, we quickly thought, what could we do? They said that, okay, we don't want to be dependent completely on foreign materials and everything for our life. So they did something called import substitution. So they started working towards what can be substituted for locally without importing. So they had some little industries and things they were doing Now, of course, then they were able to make the colonialists help to come down with industries with them. Then it was after that we realized that that was not working very well. Of course, the Civil War came. After the Civil War, we knew that we needed to get somewhere fast. But we were lucky. The oil came at the same time. So we were selling oil, we had money. And our head of state at that time said that our problem was not money, but how to spend the money. Well, somehow, some people helped to see that the money was not wasted. They created what they call the indigenization decree. It was during that indigenization decree that most of the farms that came up, indigenous farms, began to thrive. Some of the old colonial farms were sold out to local people, and a lot was happening. And construction companies were growing, like L.A.O. Banjoko and Co., W. Lawal and Co., Oni and Sons, T.A. Oni and Sons, and they were doing great, and the engineers were doing great. But this did not go well with the West. They started to blame the government, that the government should have been doing what they call free market economy. They should free the market so that the best consultants will be the ones that get a job anywhere in the world, and so on and so forth. And therefore, they worked against the indigenization decree. And what happened? We came back to what we think is now free economy. But unfortunately, there is no way it can be free. And we have to still remain mixed. But by the time we came back, they had introduced SAP, they had done all sorts of things, and Naira was a runaway thing. I mean, dollar became a runaway currency for us. So we couldn't do anything. And now, the situation is getting worse. We are in a free market, but it's not really free, and only a few people are benefiting from it. These are some of the projects that we saw that were done by Nigerians at the time. The NET building was said to have been designed by Opio Bebe and Associates, a Nigerian company. The Tafawa Balewa Square was done by OVRO and Partners and ATRO and Partners. I was with ATRO at that time, and I was resident engineer on that project. And, you know, so things were going well and well and well. The farms of Adeyemi and Partners thrived. So many farms in Ibadan. In fact, Ibadan became the center of consulting excellence. In fact, it was where consultancy was even rooted in the whole country. Well, having said a few of these, what is the way forward? Well, I believe that to be able to arrive at our key destination speedily as a country, we need to address some key issues which will influence our steps. We must continue to plan for development. Planning for development. There's no magic anywhere. Development doesn't come by magic. We have to plan for it. If we plan for it, we will get it. Part of planning for it is the development of human capital, which is, what I've said, is clear that everything else depends on human capital. And then, well, we must aim at driving massive job creation through engineering. You see, I want to say something that I know. Everybody is talking, the politicians are talking about startups, startup businesses, etc., etc. in any country, startup business can only contribute to point something of the economy. You need to be able to gain experience and so on before you start up. Those who are starting up without anything, they know the problems they go through. So you need to expand the patronage of the existing industries so that the volumes can increase, they can increase the capacity to employ, and from those employed, they can go out and start their own with experience and with better potential to succeed. You know, developing engineering capacity for the growth of MSME, that's what I've said. That's the way to do that. You put them in places where there's work at the moment, just like our father, Oladeji. The profile we saw, he worked everywhere, and he saw everything before he came to start his own. And that really made the difference. Now we must enhance competitiveness and growth of engineering enterprise. You see, if we continue to patronize certain people alone, especially nowadays the foreign people, they become monopolies. And when they become monopolies, they hold the space and they don't allow people to come into the space. And it becomes worse. Poverty becomes exaggerated. And we need to avoid that. So, well, we need to diversify our economy, definitely from agriculture. Government even knows that. Agriculture, we need to do serious agriculture, we need mechanization. First of all, we need security on the farms. That is basic. If we don't have security, there is no agriculture. After that, we need to mechanize. And then we need to set up agro-allied industries. Those are the easiest industries to set up. The agro-allied, small industries. By the time the farm products become more and more, the agro-allied industries will expand more and more, and will become large industries. That's how to start industrialization. We need to promote indigenous technology and development. We need to produce skilled personnel to man all sectors of the economy. And also, the following are some of the suggestions that we have made. Creation of a primary market for oil and gas through conversion of crude oil to finished products in Nigeria, and chemicals such as bitumen, etc. in Nigeria, not import them. If we convert our crude to what we need, it will save us a lot of problems. Then we need to complete and operate the Ajaokuta steel industry. Every industrialization is based on steel. You know, this railway that we are crying, all the rolling stocks can be gotten from Ajaokuta. If we are producing steel, we wouldn't need to import steel. So it will become a lot cheaper. Then, of course, mining of economic natural resources. We need to encourage that, but we need to set up the way to do it, the best way to do it, so that it can be done officially and it can be achieved without disruption. So, the role of engineering espoused by the engineering community as espoused in economic development is already been talked about, etc., etc. You can see the conclusion. I cannot read it here properly, but our government must be ready to adopt homegrown ideas so that we can develop more realistically. Please read what is there, and you'll see the conclusions. They are directly from what has been said. the closing statement I want to make is this. If you look at Pa Oladeji, Olaniyi, Oladeji, you will see that those were the people that God used to be part of the pioneers of the modern engineering practice in Nigeria. And you can see what they have been able to achieve. The role of early engineers in national development is as evident in the policies of the now defunct Western Nigerian government of the early 50s, which was significant input by Nigerian engineers of the caliber of late engineer E.A. Oladeji amongst his compatriots and contemporaries. No doubt shaped the legacy of the physical and economic development left behind by that administration. I hope we understand what I'm saying. The Liberty Stadium, the Cocoa House, the education, free education for all that most of us enjoyed, the policies that really made Western Nigeria to be ahead of all other regions in Nigeria. These were the reasons why we can say today we are what we are in the West. And because of the work of people like Baba and our Baba here and all our forebears, we are able to stand before you and say, well, continue to study engineering. It's still very useful. And in the end, we are going to win. Thank you very much.
I thought we'll give him a standing round of applause. Let's give him another round of applause. Thank you very much. You can't get it better. That was past president of Nigerian Center of Engineers, Engineer Olaniyi Oladeji. Thank you so very much for that. I think without wasting time, we'll just go. I'm going to hand over back to you, sir, so that you moderate the lectures and everything. Please, we have directed that the tea break will be served while we are seated, so that we will not take out any other additional time. And then we'll have the lectures now. I think as it is now, each speaker may not have more than 20 minutes to speak. But I'm sure, I trust that they will do justice to it. So I'll hand over back to the chairman to moderate the speaking. Thank you.
Well, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we must move swiftly now. The next person to deliver their own speech or lecture is Professor Olufemi Bamiro, the former Vice Chancellor of the University of Ibadan, and a very, very respected and distinctive scholar, a mechanical engineer by original training. He's represented here by Professor Oluleye, who will deliver his own, and he will deliver professor's lecture. So we start by the professor's lecture, and I'm told that we have 20 minutes maximum for each lecture, because we're going to have an interactive session at the end of it. Thank you very much. There you
go. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
and distinguished members of the high table, and distinguished fellows, and Ababa is out, but I doff my cap to him. I'm going to give the lecture on behalf of Professor Barrow, who incidentally was my lecturer. I was his student, and he sent this to me. He sent his slides. In 20 minutes, I must perform a miracle. Because he sent his slides, he even put my name, everything typed there is by him. He's on a national assignment, that's why he's not here. He's doing something like this at the national level, that's why he told me to represent him. Now, the central message of the paper is that world economies, developing nations, even though we've been told we are not one of them, we are underdeveloped, have a major problem. And there's a war going on, and that's the war of science, technology, and innovation. And so, what Prof is recommending is that engineering education should now seek to produce graduates who have the following attributes: subject specialists, investigative, resourceful, confident, adaptable, and of course reflective learners. Now, Ancoren has made a change in the accreditation process, but I'll leave this and come to that maybe much later. Now, I want to call your attention, just building on what the chairman said. I'm sure many members of the audience here may not know about this. Dunlop Nigeria invested 8 billion naira in the economy. And if you look at where the thing is in Kenya today, it's rotting away. And what happened was that they've been around for 45 years, and they invested another 6.5 billion with a capacity of 300,000 heavy-duty tires per annum. And they were doing very well until government intervened and allowed imported tires. And I tell you, the Nigerian tires were as good as any as you can get in the world, because in 1985, when I was manager of the University of Ibadan petrol station, I used to sell Dunlop tires. I mean, Dunlop tires was one of my products, and it was one of the fastest moving. So Dunlop collapsed. Of course, the recession, government changed tariff from 40% to 10%, so they were no longer competitive. The imported tires were cheaper. So what's the challenge? The challenge for us is to build local economies, just like the chairman has said, to create locally sustainable enterprises, where we can harvest and process local resources, and then have employment. So we must leverage knowledge. And the knowledge we want to leverage is the one based on science, technology, engineering, and innovation. So we want the ability to create, to master, and to mobilize knowledge in a way that will distinguish the Nigerian economy. Now, industrial incompetitiveness, and this is an old study, out of 31 African nations that were surveyed, it was found that only 5, Algeria, Mauritius, Namibia, South Africa, and Tunisia, have reached what you call the second stage of competitiveness, which is the efficiency stage. You will see that Nigeria is not there. In fact, no African nation is in the innovative
driven stage, and that is unfortunate. I'm sure we remember this, President Jonathan eating bread during one of the, executive committee meetings? But why is bread not like they envisaged it? Is because there was no plan for the supply chain. Now, what should we be doing? The recommendation is that these three sectors collaborate. That is government, academia, and industry. What is called the triple helix. That is the three of them working together to make sure that we have a sustainable socio-economic development as we envisage. So how do we deliver science and tech to achieve innovation? Again, here we want to tell a story. And this is the story of the University of Ibadan, raw material, what is called the journey through the valley of death. You can see there, that is what? Waste, isn't it? And that's what you find all over the place. Every Thursday, you see go slow around the markets, they are picking up the waste. Now, this was the basis of a project. 2001, 2 professors, 3 graduate students, agronomy, mechanical, and so on, got together and preventive and social medicine, and with 50,000 naira started looking at how to convert waste. And what came out of there was that much later, as they worked together, 1 million naira was provided by raw material development for prototype plants. And I just go straight to maybe, you can see that is a decomposing bay, that is the waste has been collected, that's a decomposing bay. And those are the machines, the milling machines to break down and so on. And that's where it's being bagged. And at the end of the day, fertilizers were produced from this waste, which were used. This project got many awards. Today it has a patent, that is, there's a patent. If you want to do it, you have to get permission from that group. And out of this project, 3 PhDs were awarded, mechanical, agronomy, and so on. So they hold the patents for this, signed by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So lessons from the case. If you give a little money, you can get a big result. So we should start putting our money where our mouth is. And to move beyond this stage, what happened to this project was that to move to the next stage, you know they got 50,000, after 50,000, 1 million, the next stage was really 10 million. To now go to many other markets and make this, almost a compulsory thing around the Ibadan. But that 10 million never came, and that is why you see Nigeria doesn't invest. We don't put our money where it really matters. Now, there are other lessons from other countries which have been put here. I've gone through this before. India, for example, has a whole ministry for skills development. That is not a part of Ministry of Labor. That may be something we want to look at. And Chile also has something that studies students from 100 level to know where in 5 years they will be. And so those students have the opportunity to look at that study and know how their profession will be by the time they graduate, employability and so on. And you can see how that is. Now, what we need to begin to do in Nigeria is to follow that map, that pattern, because since we dissolved the National Manpower Board in Nigeria, there's really been no serious coordination of what the manpower picture will look like. I have to skip through this severally because of time. So what is being advocated is this. The critical players in the industry, National Universities Commission, MBTE, Universities and Polytechnics, Industrial Training Fund, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, regulatory bodies like COREN, professional bodies like FNSE, must get engaged with each person having some kind of responsibility. NITDA, NOTAP, National Council for Women's Development, and so on. So that everybody comes together to make sure that the development which we seek can happen. Now, if you look at this is the distribution of universities in Nigeria. You see that private universities are now much more than federal, and you can see the concentration. Now, but something is unfortunate here, and what is that? The enrollment of undergraduates, this is 2017, was 1.7, postgraduate 0.2 million, let's say. So the total was 1.9, let's just make it 2 million. Total academic staff, 61, well, let's just also make that 62,000. Now the student ratio is 32 students to 1. Now let me stun you. When you hear ranking of universities in the world, you hear Harvard, you know, Stanford. What is the ratio of Harvard compared to this? 5 to 1. 5 students to 1 lecturer. 80% of the classes are less than 20 students. 80% of the classes are less than 20 students. So you find out, why won't you know your professor? Why won't you learn? So we are overburdened, and that is unfortunate, but I hope we can start doing something about it. This is the approved programs of engineering in Nigeria, but this is, I'm sure, when you get this, you will see what it does. Now, what is the good news? The good news for all of us is that Koren has started an outcome-based accreditation program. And what that does for us is that you can actually work anywhere in the world, because your degree will be calibrated against other degrees, because we're not going to use the standard that everybody else is using. And I think this is working well for us, because already the Asian countries, I think that's the next, okay, that's the next slide. This is the Korean president of Korean some years, 2018. And what he said is, today all Asian countries, 48 of them, including China, Korea, and Pacific, Australia, you find out that they accept anybody accepted by Korean. So by the time we move to the outcome-based thing, you will find out that you have more mobility around the world. Now, what is the objective of this Washington Accord, which is the OBE that we're on? Math, science, engineering, we conduct complex problems, we solve problems, we create, select, and apply technologies to solve them. And what you want is to demonstrate knowledge and understanding of engineering management and management principles, and apply this to work as an independent member as well as member of a group in a multidisciplinary setting. Now the philosophy, well, I skip that because it's ensconced in what I just said before. But what is happening is that the curriculum is now that you have basic science, foundational engineering, technology, that's what you take at your 200, 300, and then your specific engineering technology programs, which are 300, 400, and 5. And then you have general studies, social sciences, entrepreneurship, law, and economics. And the teaching and learning is such that you have lectures, laboratory practicals, tutorials, seminars, workshop practice, industrial work experience assignment, case studies, excursions, and so on. Now, the modern delivery will have teaching aids making use of this. But one of the biggest, which is something that's a little new out of it, is invited guest lecturers. That is, those who are working in industry come to teach in the universities, to hand over the experience and to make sure that the students can see real life examples and can align with them before they even graduate. Well, I think you are all familiar with this, students and staff, CWES and all that, workshop practice. And what we want by the time students are about to graduate is at 500 level, you demonstrate excellent competence, teamwork and networking, ability to conduct laboratory experiments, show professional competence in technical computations and presentations. Now, this is what Current is using for accreditation. This is the score sheet, and you see that staffing and curriculum actually take 40-something% of the marks. When you add physical facilities, you are going to almost 60% of it. Now, in conclusion, what are we trying to do? We're trying to prepare students to meet the challenges of a changing world by improving the knowledge and the skills that they meet. And we're trying to make sure that employability is enhanced and people can move out to do things with their hands and their heads. And part of the challenges which this introduces is that the institutional culture must promote employability. We must build relationships with employers at all levels, and of course capacity building and so on. Now let me say one thing here. I'm quite impressed with the current, what I call the engineering students, and I give one example. I was supervising a student, and he particularly said he wanted to do his project in one area. So I asked him, what is this? Why are you interested in this company? I mean, why this company? I've never heard this name before. He said, well, it's a small growing company, and you've always told us to take something that we can grow. I said, okay, carry on. By the time he ended, which was to set up a production line for that, company. By the time he ended, you know what I discovered? It was his company. It was his company. And then I discovered, as a student, he was already making products for even the parties, APC, PDP, and so on, when they are going for their conventions. You know those things you see, the cab, the this, that. That's what he was doing. Of course, he got a good grade, and my own benefit was that when he finished, he came and said he wanted to measure me. And then took my measurements, and then he gave me as a gift a few apparels. The only thing is, I found one of the trousers was sagging, so I had to pull that up. So thank you very much. That's the essence of what Prof wanted to put across. And let me say that he particularly mentioned that I should put across the OBE by Current, which is going to change the paradigm of engineering practice. Let me end by saying this. There used to be a professor who gave talks all over the world, very famous, and each time he went, he took his driver. His driver was so interested that the driver was always seated in the audience to listen. And so on the day in which the professor could not come, the driver drove off and gave the lecture. Professor Bamiro taught me engineering more than 46 years ago, and during my doctoral lecture in 2006, I paid tribute to him because he made engineering so simple. And in fact, the reason some of us came back was because we wanted to be like him. Thank you very much.
Well, please let us give Professor Bamiro a big round of applause. Well, it's Professor Bamiro who is intrinsically in Professor Olaniyi. So that's the first part of Professor Olaniyi today. Let us be seated. We're going to get the second part of him. Do you want to take a rest or you want to go on? 1 minute rest. Well, let's let's take somebody else for now.
Stay together.
No, well, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you a story about what was just finished. No, do what, Professor, please just take your time. Now, this OBE, outcome-based education system, in 2011, I traveled to Singapore to attend the conference of the Federation of Southeast Asia Federation of Engineering. FAPE is called. Now, one of the highlights of the meeting, of the conference, was the curriculum development for engineering education. Believe it or not, this OBE was discussed. It was already in force there. And they discussed also, amongst other things, their vision for 50 years ahead of that time. 50 years. Now, I remember quite clearly that what they were looking at students, not just being cornered in one discipline and not being able to interact with others. They are looking at students in this OBE, outcome-based education, working as teams. In other words, they will fix an objective, like, oh, what we want, the problem we want to solve is acoustic problem in this room. And definitely, there are so many people involved. The structural engineer, the civil engineer, the electrical engineer, the mechanical engineer, and sound engineer, and so on. And they would then bring all those ones together, and the lecturers will give each one of them, the project will be defined, and the lecturer will give each one of them enough stuff to be able to contribute. And they would go and do what they need to do, and they will come back with the report of that project. And it's on that report of that project that they will be assessed. And of course, you know already a problem is being solved. And at the same time, you are developing the intuition of the students to be able to act together in a multidisciplinary unit, because everything is now in multidisciplinary units. Nothing comes as purely civil, nothing comes as purely mechanical, nothing comes as purely electrical these days. So, distinguished students, well, begin to think like that, because you are not going to be able to sit in your shell as some of us have been sitting. So the future is in your hands. Yes. Now the questions, you may have questions for the papers that have been delivered. Please write those questions if you can, and send across so that we won't spend much time when we are doing questions and answers. Please send them across. Tell us who you want to ask and what you want to ask. Thank you. Professor Oluleye. Now for Professor Oluleye.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Let me also say that when the chairman Ibadan was saying, when NSE calls me, I answer, NSE is top of the priority. And I must say thank you, sir. The first talk I gave like this to NSE was when you were chairman. If you remember, I'm not sure, 20 whatever years ago. when we spoke about industrial engineering. So I've been told to speak about the topic is imperative of engineering national development. And I'm going to speak from the angle of industrial engineering a bit, just like other speakers will flavor their talk. And let me say, in honor of Papa Oladeji, one question I ask every year in my classes, and which nobody has succeeded in answering, I will ask it today and give the answer. I ask, which project in Nigeria has been delivered on time and on cost? And I go around, whether I'm speaking to local government chairmen or directors, nobody is able to answer those. But I want to give an answer because our Papa was involved. Ashejire Dam Project. 24 days ago, we celebrated that project of 49 years since its commissioning, and he was involved. I saw this on my government college platform when it was being celebrated that out of the 10 local engineers that delivered that project on time and on cost, 11 million pounds, commissioned by General Yakubu Gowon. Engineer Oladeji was one of them. Engineer Faluyi, who was mentioned, was one of them. And out of those 10 engineers, 6 of them actually came from government college. They knew each other. So they delivered on time and on cost. But
part of the design in the US, I was sent by the government of Western Nigeria to participate in that design. And the design was completed during my stay in Reading, Philadelphia.
Thank you very much, sir. So I'm actually before a legend. I salute you, sir. Well, what I'm going to talk about today, and I want you to listen very well. You see, because many times we talk about many things, but we never get the full picture. We never get a total picture. And one reason is this. I wake up in the morning and I see 1,000 WhatsApp messages over different platforms. And you begin to wonder which one should you start with. And by the time you start, you see that everybody's sentiment is part of a comment. Everybody's sentiment is part of a comment. So I'm going to show a big picture, and I'm going to show our part in each one of those pictures. And I want to say, let us see how we can do the best. Now, the last 2 years has changed the way we are going to work, the way the world is going to interact, and so on. And I'm sure you know the reason why. COVID. Now, engineering, which is the application of science, optimized conversion of natural resources, I'm sure we're all familiar with that. Of course, technology deals with methods, systems, devices, and so on. And for progression in the world today is STEM, that is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So who qualifies to play in today's world? And I'm going to show you 3 pictures that tell a story. Well, not very clear. Those are G8 leaders. This is when Obama was still there. And you can see that Putin was somewhere there, isn't it? Now, what qualifies all those people to stay together is technology, engineering. They are the nations. It's not just talk. It's not the number of soldiers you have to fight a war. It is your power in technology and engineering. Now, the next picture, Putin had been kicked out, G7. You know, they were trying to manage him. And then he was being too troublesome. They kicked him out. And I'm going to show you this next picture. Please, can you? Now, this next picture tells a story of Nigeria. Not very clear, but let me explain it. To the right side is the German government delegation. And to the left side is the Nigerian delegation represented by Mr. President. You can't see this well, but if you look at the front of the German people, everybody has a pen and paper ready to write. If you look at the Nigerian side, the table is blank. Now, what is going to be the result of that negotiation? Your answer is as good as mine, isn't it? So we know what's going to happen. So how does industrial engineering come in? Industrial engineering deals with the optimization of complex processes, systems, and organizations, and we develop, improve, implement integrated systems of people, money, knowledge, information, and equipment. In many respects, and I say this all the time, anywhere work is done, you need an industrial engineer. Anywhere you do work. And I can tell you in Nigeria today, there are industrial engineers who are generals in the army, in the navy, in the banking, in civil service, and so on like that. And industrial engineering goes through many phases: production and manufacturing, operations research, engineering management, economics, human factors, and systems analysis. So the workplace has changed in today's world. The place where we do work, for many people, is not in their home, isn't it? People are asking their workplace to pay rent for using my house as an office. And there's change in time. But what people are asking for now is that some type of people are now overloaded. Because your boss can call you at 12 midnight to say, is that thing ready? So people are asking for the right to disconnect. That even though I'm working from home, I don't want you to call me anytime. But there's a funny story which happened recently. A worker from home got out of his bed and was approaching the office he set up in his house, and he fell down the stairs. And what did he do? He sued his employer that it was an occupational hazard, that he was going to his office and he fell down, and the insurance should cover that. You won't believe it, he won. Because they said, since that was the first place he was going to in his house, not that he had first gone to make coffee, he was going from his bed to his office, the company should pay. So that's the kind of, mix in which. Now, I want to show you some things about Nigeria and where we are. And I want you to pay some attention. And I'm sure some of the speakers will probably also speak about this. And I want to talk of a very important gap. You can see our population very big. Is it 1 in 6 black men is a Nigerian, isn't it? Our population growth is 2.6%. But the one I want to draw your attention to is GDP growth. Is 1.9. There's a 30% gap. We are producing more people than we are producing wealth. And so when you hear the dollar is like this, the naira is like that, that is where the pressure is. Until you produce and you leave consumption, you will continue to have the kind of problem we have. And so I take a few data, even up to this year, the first quarter of this year, in agri, manufacturing, transport, and even education, and you can see a problem developing. Agri crop production just 2.3% growth. In fact, mining and quarrying last year fell by 8%. That is what we depend on, the dollar, isn't it? Where the dollar is coming from, fell by 8%. And in the first quarter of this year, it has fallen by 2.19%. Natural gas has also fallen. And oil refining has fallen by 57%. Cement is growing. Why is it growing? Dangote, isn't it? Private sector. Food beverages, a little growth because we must eat. Textile is going down because it's almost destroyed. Everything we wear today is from somewhere else. Other manufacturing, and then construction, just meager 1.7. You know, we are growing, but we are not meeting what is required to innovate that growth. And this is a real growth, even though there's a lot of trade, but full trade has fallen 2.4%. Road transport, people are easy about traveling, that percent. Telecoms, again, fell, and you can see education also fell. This is first quarter this year, that is January to March. Now, I want to go through the expectation of Nigeria. You see, we've signed a document with every nation in the world. Sustainable development goals. We've set goals, so I'm going to look at some of the targets. In particular, I just want to concentrate on the ones that engineering is all about: industry, innovation, infrastructure. Wow, this is, well, it's a little hazy, but the goal number 9 is that you want to build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization. And you can see one of the indices is Rural Access Index. And this is the proportion of the rural population who live within 2 kilometers of all-season road. That is, they can get on the road all season. You can see Nigeria is 25.5, which is very, very low. And this data is dated. Target number 9.2 is industrialization and so on. But let's see where we are. Manufacturing value added, Nigeria had 52.6 in 2014. In 2019, it has fallen. And over the last 5 years, it has not really changed much. But the world average is 69.9, which means we have a big gap. Now, manufacturing employment, you want to increase small scale, industrial and enterprises. And you see, this is where Nigeria must come and shake. Because 95% of the businesses are actually in this grade. And they produce 84% of the employment, and they produce 48% of the GDP. So that's where to go and act. Make sure they're doing well, and 48% of the economy will be impacted. Now, there are other things, proportion of this with a loan. We know CBN makes many things. You must give 20% of your money to, but there's a problem. How do they pay back when government is changing policy now and then? So the issues of monitoring, skilling, training, and so on remain. Now, by 2030, we're supposed to upgrade infrastructure, retrofit industries, but where are we? Our CO2 emission is low, but you can know why it's low. We are not producing much, so it has to be low. So if you are doing well here, don't clap for yourself. It's because you are not even waking up. Okay, so that's why you see that is like that. Now, when it comes to scientific research, upgrade of technological for innovation, let's see where we are. The research and development expenditure as a proportion of, GDP. Look at Korea. Korea is the highest in the world, actually. South Korea is 4.8% of GDP spent on R&D. But look at Nigeria. Oh, sorry. Nigeria is what? 0.13. And the best we had before then was 0.22. So we're not really expanding where the leverage is. And that is the picture for some countries in the world against Nigeria. You can see Korea is 4 point that. Even the United States is about half of Korea. Okay, although they are still doing very well, but they are still way behind. Now you look at number of researchers. Who are the people who are going to innovate the system? And Nigeria had, that is full-time equivalent per million, of the populace. Nigeria had 38 point, that is there are 38, or let's say 39 people to 1 million, 39 researchers, sorry, to 1 million people. You can see South Africa, 404, The difference is clear, isn't it? Now, the most interesting case is Ghana. Ghana was low. In fact, Ghana was half of Nigeria, well, something like half of Nigeria in 2007. But look at where they are. They've kicked off the system to begin to work. They've opened up resources into the educational system. They're getting researchers in there. So Ghana's progression is fivefold within a period of 8 years. And we have to take notice, because many industries are moving where? When they ran away from power, where did they go? Now that grants are being given, many of the donors are saying Nigeria is not safe, the policy, this and this. Where are they moving to? Ghana, and sometimes also Rwanda. Rwanda that killed 1 million people in a short time is now a bed of roses. So we have to wake up. So how do we sustain this? Again, when you look at official support for international support, that is the money that flows into Nigeria, it has decreased by 48% due to the policies and the ease of doing business. It's not easy to do business in Nigeria. Okay, you encounter police, you encounter all kinds of scams and syndicates and so on, and stumbling blocks. So the proportion of medium and small scale, that is involved, we've been level in the last 5 years. So it's like we haven't made much progress. But telecoms, that's where we're doing some good business. 170 million phone users. But I can tell you that figure is with a comma, because right here as I'm standing here, there's one phone here, but I'm one user. So I hope you get it. But it's speculated. Your carpenter has a phone. Your plumber has a phone. The F4 seller has, you can call, that is good, which we must say. Now, what do industrial, having said all this, what role can we play? We must build more efficient and profitable, we must engage in more profitable practices. We must have what? Better customer service and product quality. You see, many people make the mistake with quality. Quality is not, in the dictionary, it will tell you conformation to specification, isn't it? The layman's definition of quality is whatever the layman says it is. If I see this thing and I say it's bad, what does that mean for my pocket? It is bad. I won't put my money there. So you must chase the layman, the customer, and then we must increase our ability to do more with less. Resources as dwindling, but we must do more, and we must begin to work safer, faster, easier, and I'll say smarter. Okay, which may even be the most important. So we want to produce all this, reduce the cost of technologies, and so on. So some of the things we see which we are beginning to do is to begin to work with industry. And I want to give the story of just one example we are doing now. Based on this outcome, thing, what we've done is there's a group called ARUA. ARUA is a group of universities. University of Ibadan is one of them, spread across 4 continents. Okay, the United States, the UK, Australia, Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, and Uganda. And what we're trying to do is now cooperate or collaborate with industry, and in fact, let industry drive the research. So we've had a series of meetings and so on for the past 1.5 years. We've developed a document. All those universities are going to come out and form a pool where you bring problems from England, from anywhere, you put it in a pool, and you look for those who will attack it and solve it and make sure that we can now declassify the knowledge to the whole world. So that is something that's going on, which we hope works well. But like I said before at the beginning, the gap between population and productivity, which is the growth of our GDP, must of necessity change. So we must put more money in R&D. We must also cultivate investor confidence. That is, people should be glad to bring their money here. Now, some of you may wonder, why would an American or a British want to bring money to Nigeria to invest? The reason is this. This is the only economy where you can be talking of double-digit profitability. That is, this is the economy where when you put 1 million, you can get 2 or 1 point something. In those economies, what you find is that the interest rate is about 2%, 1%, 1.5%, and so on like that. So there's a pool here, but the problem we're having here is that the risk is high. Because you may bring the money, you may make the money, and then it disappears. So we have to do something about that risk, because it will pull money into the private sector here especially. And what we're saying is, with the youth, even as the chairman said, over 60% of the population is under 24. You know, that's a time bomb with no employment. So you must begin to do something about that. And I'm sure our brother will speak when it comes to power. But what we're saying is, can we form power oases? That is, have some places where power does not go out to facilitate, you know, the youth to join the bandwagon of development. And I tell you, this is one of the things India does. I was on a visit to India, and we're taken to a place where when everybody was sleeping, that is going to bed, 1 a.m., that's when the people, that complex, that's when they were going to work. And what were they doing? Working on the problems of America, who are sleeping, but are sending those things to them to work on. By the next morning is there, and they are making billions of dollars. So if we can get our youth to get engaged productively, you see anybody who is a 419 has what? Has brain. He must be intelligent to fool an intelligent person. So let's, tune them, in another direction. And of course, the educational system has to improve. And I must tell you, this year that I taught the last 1 year where I taught blended mode, that is online as well as physical, I can confess to you that I found that our performance was better. That is, the performance of the students was far better because we had better engagement. So that is one way we may want to go. So thank you very much. I wish you all the best. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Please let us rise and give him a rising ovation. Indeed, Prof, we are very grateful. Please take a seat. It's obvious that there is more to the name Prof than what some people call themselves. In those days, Prof, you think you want to look at the man with either one eye or one arm or some squint nose or something like that. Somebody who has been reading so much that his system has been distorted. But these days, and then when the profs start to speak, the language is so complicated. The language is so complicated that we can hardly understand. But today, we've had this beautiful rendition by our professor. And it's been so simplified and yet so incisive and so adaptive to the topic. Prof, I doff my hat for you, sir. So, we would not waste time. Please, again, if you have questions, if you have comments, please put it in writing, send it up to the high table. We'll give it to the appropriate people for answers. We move straight to the next speaker, who is Engineer Wale Lagunju of Indicon. Here you go. Hello.
The chairman, Papa, and other august speakers, the family of Engineer Emmanuel, Olaniyi, Oladeji, FNSE, and everyone that is in the house. Good morning. Today we'll be looking at engineering in Panacea for economic development. The lecture will be such that it will be educative for all of us. At least we'll be well informed at the end of the day about what is happening in Nigeria and the way forward. We'll be looking at what is engineering, economic development, the government efforts at economic development in Nigeria, the factors responsible for ineffective contribution of engineering to economic development, the consequences that we have on employment, the poverty in Nigeria, the way forward, and thereafter we're looking at the conclusion. That is engineering. It's the art of creating the products using scientific knowledge and technology to provide solutions to different human challenges. It is the application of mathematics, science, economics, social and practical knowledge to invent, to innovate and design, and build, to improve structures, and to provide solutions to all of us. What's going on? Okay. So engineering is a daily affair. I'm sure we all know that to wake up in the morning, take your bath, cook your breakfast, go to work in air-conditioned car, you spend your day in the office, you drive on the road, everything is all about return to your home in the evening, you relax and watch CNN or sports. It's all about engineering. Initially, there are 4 main branches of engineering: civil engineering, chemical, electrical, mechanical. But over the years, the 4 have been further subdivided, and you have a lot of them now: aerospace, biomedical, chemical, civil, computer, different disciplines of engineering, as we all know. For those that are even non-engineers, these are all engineering and fields of engineering that such that we can say that is the most important profession that has contributed to the most human development and world civilization. You have it in agricultural sector, all those tractors that we have for mechanized farming, all engineering. Fertilizers from chemical engineers, irrigation from civil engineers. You have the banking sector, all the ATMs that we are using now, all from engineers. They are all products of engineering. All the safes, they are products of materials and mechanical engineering. And of course, your automobile. You have different cars, your desires, your aspirations, as one of the things that you consider as your achievements. They are all products of engineering. And of course, education. All the classrooms, all the chairs, everything engineering. And of course, a lot of marketing work that we have these days, they are all facilitated by engineering, such that Alibaba made over 10 million sales in a day, made possible by computer engineering. And of course, the health sectors, you have the biomedical engineering being applied these days. Then, of course, you have the Stadia, you have the DSTV, all made possible so that you can watch your Man U and Arsenal and Chelsea without even knowing the players or seeing them in action. All of them made possible by engineering. Then, of course, transportation. This is where you have a lot of input by the civil engineers, both roads, rails, as well, as in the aviation. You have civil engineers providing their services. The practice of engineering, just as Prof came from the research and development university, you have the public, those that work in the federal ministries, civil service, some of us coming from consulting practice, people in the construction, materials, you know. So as engineers, you can work in every area of life. Now, let's quickly, it's important that we know the history of this country. And I would like to just quickly run us through when that is immediately after the colonial, just as our chairman said, that the colonial people, they develop infrastructures, but for their own benefits, so that they could bring in the raw materials down to the port and to ship back even overseas. But as soon as we took over, after independence, we started. And the focus was on infrastructure projects. The focus was on development that will bring, the economic development to the people through the input of engineering. So we started, and we started with the first National Development Plan, which spanned between 1962, is a 5-year thing, 1962 through 1968. And it was during the period that we have the River Niger that we have now, that is not replaced, that it was constructed, the Kanji Dam, the Port Harcourt Refinery, then the Security Printing and Minting, and the Jeba Paper Mill. These were the things that were constructed during the period. Then, according to Engineer Adeola, said that engineering development, so development is the focus of all governments of nations, including Nigeria, for the benefits of the citizens. So, after independence, all regimes, they made efforts towards development of the nation for the economic development of our nation, Nigeria. So, what have the governments done in terms of infrastructure? How effective have they been, particularly with the role of engineering? What are the challenges? What are the possible solutions? So that is what we'll be looking at very briefly, so that Nigeria too can be among the top 20 economies of the world, as we all thirst for and desire. Under the first national development, as I mentioned, the River Niger Bridge was developed, and I will not know how many of our students have gone on that bridge. Very soon, to be by the end of next year, to be phased out, we'll be riding on the second Niger Bridge. But it was constructed way back in 1965 under the first national development. Then the Kanji Dam was built in 1969, and that, apart from providing power, is providing irrigation as well. Then, of course, the Port Harcourt Refinery was built in 1965. Unfortunately, we have not had a better replacement. 1965 to date, you can imagine if Nigeria had been, a better country, would have had more recent ones that we will not be talking about removing, all the subsidy that we have the challenge this time. And of course, the security minting was constructed during the period. Then the Jeba Mill, paper mill, was first built in 1965 under the first National Development Plan. Then, of course, the second National Development took another 5 years, 70 to 1975. There you have the textile mill was built, and textile mill was a very huge industry. If you go to Kaduna, you see that we have really lost a lot, because it was a big industry with over 40,000 people working. We are not talking about independence. All the Adams or Shimole and Kwon, they were all products of the textile industry way back then in the 70s. But where are they today? The vehicle assembly plants in Enugu, in Kaduna, the Pojo assembly plant, and the Enugu, they were all under the second National Development Plan. Then, of course, the third one, that's when you have the building and construction sector recording significant growth. That's when the chairman talked about the oil boom. This was the period of the oil boom, and manufacturing, everything recorded very good growth during this period. It was a good time in our nation, Nigeria. Then we have the fourth National Development Plan, that is 1981 to 1985, when you have the Shagari government. That was when the Ajaokuta was started. It was started, substantially completed, but not completed, to the extent that it has not been able to deliver all the rolling stock that we will have used, even for our railway construction and for other industries as we speak today. Then Egbin Power Station in Lagos. This power station was built in that 1986 during this period as well. Then, of course, what we call the dry dock at Snake Island. This was used for a lot of fabrication for the oil and gas. It was built during this period and operated until recent time. Then, of course, they have the ADP, Agricultural Development Program. A lot of people worked during this period, and indeed, it was a good time for agriculture in our nation, Nigeria, at the time. Then the fifth one, that is 1986 to 19, this was aborted, but the objectives were to diversify the national economy, but that was the time of Babangida and co. Unfortunately, what did he bring? He brought in the Structural Adjustment Program, and that was, can say, the beginning of the problems that we have with our Naira in Nigeria and with a lot of things. You know, they were looking at commercialization, privatization, rationalization, but the whole thing failed to achieve its cardinal objectives. And again, they brought in the rolling plans. So the rolling plans came, 3 of them. The only idea is for, part of them were the NDE, National Development Directorate of Employment. So some people, got engaged and who got jobs, but it didn't last. Then, of course, the second rolling plan, the third rolling plan, that we have good programs on paper, but very poor implementation. Then, of course, Abacha came in, and he came with this, what we call the Vision 2020. The Vision 2020 was then to stabilize, the value of Naira, but something again that happened during the period, that you have the PTF. The PTF indeed contributed a lot of improvement in infrastructural development in Nigeria. That is just the truth. Then, of course, was able to tame the influence of the World Bank and IMF, even that continued to disrupt and destroy the economies of nations. And of course, there was some reduction because Nigeria made a lot of money during the period. So there was reduction in external and internal debts, and part of it too, the man helped himself. And tomorrow we're going to talk about refund of the loots, of Abacha loots. There was a lot of money in Nigeria, but unfortunately, corruption affected it. And of course, you have Obasanjo came in. And Obasanjo, by the time Obasanjo came in, Obasanjo came out to set up systems for our nation, Nigeria. Came up to set up systems. Now that we are moving from military to the democratic government to set up systems, you see a lot of them that if only they were implemented, we will not be at this level. So we have the needs at the national level, a national economic empowerment and development strategy. Then you have them even at the state level, where you have the seeds as well. They are to find the importance of private sector to support wealth creation and poverty reduction in Nigeria. Then, of course, it came up with the ERGP, that is Economic Reforms and Governance Project, to strengthen governance accountability, minimize corruption, ensure service delivery, establish a reform process for the civil service, and pension reforms. Very good structure, very good. Unfortunately, they are not working. So sad that they are not working. They were to address the efficiency in planning, budgeting system, the colossal wage bill, lack of database. This was how to put all this in place. Low capital spending, inefficiencies, no transparency, no accountability. They wanted to be tracking revenues and expenditure and to sending materials in. So these were the things that a lot of these they were able to put in place. And if only they can implement them, we have the budget monitoring, the debt management office, the pension reform, the FIRS, the procurement process, the due process. You have the IPPS that they are using, You have the Public Enterprise, National Council, then Bureau of Public Enterprise. Then you have, that was when you have the EFCC and ICPC. But good on paper, but implementation zero. Then again, you have Yaradua came in. I say with Vision 2020, which was not achieved. But the whole idea was to make Nigeria one of the first 20 economies by 2020. But it did not work, Unfortunately, I think the best that we could get to was maybe 25th economy sometime, but I'm sure we have slipped again. So the targets were aimed at engineering goals that will ensure improvement in the quality of lives of Nigerians and including equity and balanced development. Then Yaradua came with the 7 points. No, it was still Yaradua, all focused, on education, but each time was short-lived. Then we move on to Goodluck Jonathan. So you have the transformation agenda with all